don't think you guys should show him at all. You guys should ban Marilyn Manson from TV.
He shouldn't be censored out, and they shouldn't have to, like, say that you can't put a video on air just because it contains certain content. I think he should put in whatever his opinion is to get his point across.
5 years from now, Marilyn Manson's going to be about as cool as Boy George is now. So, you know, it's all for shock value.
Don't Turn the Page earlier in the show. That version is the original version. The version that we're playing in rotation on Much Music is the edited version, the version that has a great deal less violence. However, the next video we're about to air for you is the latest from Marilyn Manson. This particular video has never aired on Much Music. You've heard of it, I'm sure, however. It's called I Don't Like the Drugs, But the Drug Like Me. And this is Marilyn Manson on Too Much for Much.
But the drugs like me. The drugs, the drugs, the drugs. No love, baby. And also at Joe and our sex is missionary. Will be televised. The drugs like me. The drugs, the drugs, the drugs.
Marilyn Manson, and of course, we asked Marilyn Manson to come here tonight to talk about the video. He declined because Much Music is not airing the video. However, Paul Hunter, who's the video director, did have some comments. Look at this.
What the song was about was that, you know, the drugs of television and negative images that we of the world that we live in, and it's just the irony that we don't, you know, that we love it, but it's the thing that destroys us. The idea at the end, you know, in my mind is sort of like, you know, sort of a climactic thing that we see in movies. You know, we wanted to take the video to a place and sort of like leave people hanging on to the edge of their seat. It wasn't anything to, you know, to say, hey, commit suicide because that's the only escape.
Don't like the drugs, the drugs, the drugs. Drugs, but the drugs like me.
I would look at that idea more as a, you know, as a sacrifice, you know, to sort of like put an end to, or have some type of way out, you know, to, you know, the system that's sort of oppressing.
Our confessions will be televised.
Manson, I think that I would say that he's one of the smartest guys that I've worked with. Definitely has a message about, you know, the underdog and about the outsider. Just as an artist, I think everyone has a, you know, a right to sort of express themselves and try to get the point that they want to make. But, I mean, you can't, you're not gonna, you know, you're gonna piss off somebody, you know. So I wasn't worried about that. I just wanted to make something that, you know, that was, you know, thought-provoking.
All right, now it's time to go see John Jones, who's a member of our review committee here on Much Music. John, why is it that Much Music is not airing the Marilyn Manson video?
Well, Paul Hunter's points are well taken. First of all, the television metaphor is very strong in the video. But our big concern with the video itself was the imagery of suicide. And while there is ambiguity there, as broadcasters, we're concerned with the issue of suicide and the impression of suicide on viewers. If you watch the video, you'll see him climb up the oil tanker, move along the railing, and in fact, there's even some foreshadowing before that in the video with flashcards. And we don't actually see him leave the platform, but he does land on the ground, and whether he's reborn as a television image or what, it's a big concern because it can be potential triggers for suicide. And that's where we as broadcasters felt that the video was really not fit for airplay. And we also decided to get some outside input. So we went to Chris at Kids Help Phone to have her input on the video as well.
Chris, what were some of your thoughts on the video?
My comments on the video were that we have to realize that the reality is that suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people in this country. And many of those young people are struggling with a substance abuse problem, they're depressed, and they're feeling hopeless. And my question would be, or my concern is that this video reinforces that feeling of hopelessness. Every day at Kids Help Phone, 4% of the 800 to 1,000 calls that we receive are from kids who are struggling with the issue of suicide. And we have experienced other rock stars who have committed suicide in the past, and the outpouring and the impact on young people in this country was absolutely overwhelming.
Well, hold on a second. We've got a rock star here, Ken.
I would think that, though, I mean, exactly from what you're saying, it's such a predominantly important thing for kids and everything, and wouldn't that sort of be the reason why you see it in these art forms? Because people are expressing a very major concern. And it's like the same thing as about the other videos. Just because it's in the video doesn't mean it's being condoned. And I think that's a very simplistic way of looking at everything. And it also takes the power out of the viewer. It's like, just because someone says the word suicide doesn't mean they're saying it's good. Just because someone shows, like, and like people were saying about the first video, it's the same kind of concept. It's like, just because they're showing a stripper or a hooker, it doesn't mean they're saying that it's good. And just because he depicts something about suicide, maybe it's like you said, it's so prominent in the world. It's art, and that's what art does. It reflects what's going on in the world. And you're looking at a symptom, a little tiny thing. He knows what you're saying, and maybe that's why he makes art forms like that.
You've raised some really important points. I think that we need to... Suicide is a very complex issue to deal with. One of the things that we've learned, unfortunately, is that in our efforts to inform the public about suicide, you are probably aware that we don't publicize suicides in the subways and that sort of thing because we know they trigger other deaths. Toronto this year alone has had a considerable rise in suicide, and we believe that's because of some very sensational media coverage.
You believe
Tim,
it?
do you
Is there
agree
any
with that?
studies on that?
No, I mean, one of his most popular interviews was with Rolling Stone, and he said, I was never afraid of what was under the bed. I wanted to become what was under the bed. And he wanted to become that monster. And the intent is what's really the problem. His intent is to become, he also said in Spin, his intent in Spin, he said, was to become something that every adult hates and fears. And that's what he's doing with his videos. The subliminal messages, there's thousands of them if you watch it.
I don't think he's that bright.
See that there's a lot of controversy going on here. And a lot of them seem to revolve around moral issues. So what we're going to do is take a very, very short break. And when we do come back, we will wrestle with some of these moral issues, hopefully with some of your input on Too Much for Much.
If you're going to go and watch something on TV and think that you could go and just, you know what I mean, do whatever it is that they're showing and then blame it on the TV, there's something wrong with your head.
Just call the number on your screen.
Hey, if people's going to go commit suicide, one video is not going to make them decide whether to do it or not.
I'm influenced extremely by visual, and I think that if I saw that and if I had any idea about it, that's probably, I don't know, that would be very influential for me, I think.
Welcome back to Too Much for Much, everybody. We've received an email from Naomi Anderson, and if you look to your monitors, we should be seeing it in just a few moments. Here we go. Now, I do not see what your problem with this video is, the mention of drugs, because I'm sorry to say, but watch all the new hip-hop videos out today. This video is meant to portray a very disgusting habit in North American society, the television. Ooh, what do you think about that, Max?
Well, I've got two little problems here. The first is that, you know, he's a guy with an arm cut off that's not bleeding who jumps off a bridge and turns into a bunch of television. So it is. It's not exactly real, and I think young people are smart, and young people can get that. So that's my first problem. But the second is that you're doing his marketing for him by yanking it off the air. You know, I mean, historically, you look back, young people tend to gravitate towards stuff that their parents don't want to see or don't want them to see. So if you want to do something clever with the video, put it on the air and air the kid's help phone number right after it. Because the problem with suicide is we aggrandize it by not talking about it. And I know you get lots of callers, but there are so many more people who don't call who this could get to call your line.
Chris, do you agree?
I do and I don't. I mean, I think that the issue of suicide needs to be talked about. Unfortunately, the reality is, and all the research supports, that how we portray suicide does have an impact. It's just a reality, and I regret it more than most people because I spend a lot of time trying to educate the public, and there's a lot of things that I've learned I can't do that we have to do very carefully.
My point exactly. You'd have Marilyn Manson helping you educate people about suicide here. You'd have a great springboard for that discussion.
People could say that just us sitting around here talking, saying the word suicide, suicide over and over again is going to... I mean, that's what we're doing. We're not doing anything different than what he's doing.
But Ken, since you're in a rock group, do rock bands truly have a responsibility toward the audience?
Well, I guess in some way they do. I mean, I hate to duck out of that, but I mean, first and foremost, you have a responsibility to your art form. I mean, if I thought that Marilyn Manson was making a video trying to coax kids into committing suicide, then I would agree with you. But I don't, again, I think they have a responsibility to talk about what they want to talk about. They're artists, that's their right.
Well, they write the lyrics. And I'm not sure that
like there are novels
that
about
Marilyn Manson is trying to convince kids to do suicide, but sometimes I think we do things without understanding the impact of the things that we do. And I think Tim and I aren't talking about the general population. I agree, kids are smart and not all kids are suicidal. But the reality is that part of the youth population is, and unfortunately, a fairly large group of kids who are very vulnerable to these kinds of messages. It's a reality.
And absolutely, we have responsibility. How can we not have responsibility, particularly to your target audience? I went to Manson's show when it was in Toronto. It was filled with not just teenagers and young adults. People were bringing their children. There's a responsibility. It's their responsibility as well But he has pictures, the subliminal messages, his parodies on Christianity. I'm a Christian. I had 6 kids die of suicide in 6 months. In his lyrics, which are quite sophisticated, he says we're like Christians pointing at a suicide.
Right.
Take personal offense to that.
Well, that's how you just don't go.
That's a whole different issue. Don't watch it.
But there's a million issues.
We're not talking about personal
offense. The kids I work with watch it. I'd be a fool not to care for them and know what they're involved in.
Something by watching this.
Let's not get confused about
how we get away from that so
Have you read the lyrics through?
Well,
sure, absolutely.
And what did you get out of them?
I got out of it that Marilyn's desperately trying to sell a lot of records. And look, instead of getting his video played every once in a while on this station, he's getting an hour of primetime coverage right now because we're afraid to talk about it.
But shock seems to be a growing trend.
A growing trend.
Everybody seems to be doing it.
But what's Marilyn Manson? He's Alice Cooper 25 years later. Yeah. Sorry for anything Manson fans.
But he's angry with Alice Cooper.
But think about it.
Alice Cooper.
Think of the number of rats
He
who aren't
says
dead.
he's angry with Alice Cooper because Alice Cooper goes in and out of his character. And Manson says, I live it out. And kids understand
Manson's
that.
changing
Young
his character
people
all the time.
understand that.
Last video he turned into Cher. This one he turned into Carol Channing. My God.
But let's not confuse. Maybe we've discovered 2 points here. Let's not confuse what Chris is talking about. Maybe genuine concern for people killing themselves, and what you're talking about is what your personal Christian ethic.
And
that's what
there's
a big difference between what you find offensive and what she's worried about killing people.
I think we've gotten a good sense
well,
of everybody's point of view here in our little forum here. I want to get your point of view. We're going to take a very short break. We will be back and hopefully hear from you on Too Much for Much.
I think music in general is just a mean of expression. People use it to express either an image or views or just their creativity. And I think you should be allowed to express whatever that is. The onus is not on either the television that's showing it or the artist that's creating it.
Seems to me we've been speaking for the Marilyn Manson fans. Let's go speak to them directly. So what do you think of all of this?
Well, I've seen a lot of Marilyn Manson videos, and I've seen 2 Hanson videos. And to tell you the truth, I've never seen anything as disturbing as Hanson. And if anything were going to lead me to commit suicide, it would be multiple Hanson.
So you don't think that images of violence or suicide on television will affect you? Is that what you're saying?
If you're smart, you gotta use your head. Like, if you can use your head, you're gonna know that killing yourself isn't probably the best idea, you know?
Okay. Well, we've got a phone call as well from Chris. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Chris, what are some of your thoughts on this?
Well, I feel that if you commit suicide over a video, you know, you deserve to die. It's called natural selection. And, you know, I'm totally against censorship. Like, people should have the choice to decide whether or not what to listen to, and it's so stupid. Like, the fact that you guys are, like, debating it, it blows my mind.
Well, I think it's very interesting that everybody here has their expressed opinion. The whole point is to get you thinking, right?
Yeah, everyone's entitled to their opinion, you know? And
right.
That's what Marilyn Manson is all about, from what I'm concerned.
Chris, you seem to be shaking your head on that particular comment.
I guess I was thinking about the comment that one video would cause them to commit suicide. I don't think anyone's saying that. I think that's absurd. But it may be accumulation, and it has a lot to do with where the person starts out. And the reality is, folks, there are depressed, vulnerable young people in this society who are committing suicide each and every day. And it may not be one video, but that one video may be the trigger.
Okay. What about you, Ken? If you've got one thing that you want the viewers to come away with today, what would it be?
Well, I mean, I just think that it's just important to understand that. I mean, I would like to think that art is just a reflection of, again, it's a reflection of what is going on out there. And all the points have been made, and I understand them all, but obviously, if you deal with, it's like, you know, if you're worried about arson, then get rid of matches. If you're worried, I mean, I don't really think that these videos, they're just, all these artists are just trying to show what they see in the world. And it's the same as the debate against the hip-hop, you know, talking about violence. Well, if that's what they see, that's what they're talking about. I guess it comes back to the question, the chicken or the egg, what came first? But I mean, I guess artists have responsibilities, but they also have a responsibility to their art and just to be reporters on what they see out there. And that's...
It's a fine line. All right, what do you think about all that, Tim?
I think it's pretty sad that when the word suicide comes up in any shape or form, we can laugh about it at any place. And I do realize that a lot of the audience and his audience are very bright and are sophisticated teenagers and young adults. I'm not trying to put them down in any way. I care for them deeply. But the ones that don't understand, that intercept that, we can't care deeply enough about that. And I think it's our responsibility to take issue with the fact that someone thinks it's just marketing. Someone just thinks it's creativity. It's much more than that. It's young lives that focus on this. Some kids take it literally.
Well, Max, as someone who works with Gen Xers as far as marketing goes, I mean, will this in any way affect the way that you would want to market to youth?
Well, I mean, you can learn a lot from Marilyn Manson in that, you know, he sold a lot of records, less so this time, but he sold a lot of albums on how strongly he markets himself. If there's one thing that I would have to say on all this, it's that if you're offended by it, don't watch it. But if you're smart and young, and lots of your viewers are young and smart, and you've got some kind of feelings of depression or some kind of problem, then do something smart about it and get help there. But don't take these videos off the air.
Okay, all right. Well, John, the review committee has the opportunity to air a video or not air a video. Where do you draw the line?
Well, with the Manson video, it's an interesting case. Obviously, we had a discussion about it. We actually took our concerns to the Manson camp, and they're changing the video to suit what we feel will be the standards. It's a lot of accountability to put on the shoulders of broadcasters to have a video like that out there with the concerns that Chris has raised and Tim has raised too.
All right. Thank you very much, John Jones. Thank you to all of our panelists. And for you at home who've been watching the show, please, the whole idea here is to try to establish community standards and to have you watch television critically. Please let us know what you think anytime. It's too much for much. Did you have any thoughts on these videos that we heard today?
I think he's right, that they're getting more publicity by picking apart everything and making it into a big deal.
Okay, hold on, let's get some different points of view. What did you think?
I think that it's like, it takes a village to raise a child, and you can't blame it all on the artist. It's everybody's responsibility. You can't blame one person.
All good points all around. Don't forget, we want to hear from you. This has been a Much Music production. Too much for much.